What's happening, YouTube? It's Simon 466 Cards back from the National, and today I'm gonna recap the trade nights from my point of view on Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. You might have heard some stories about them, some true, some maybe more of a myth and urban legend at this point, but it was wild. It was wild. So I'm starting off here on the Thursday night. I flew in Thursday afternoon, went straight to my hotel, dropped off my stuff, went for a bite to eat, and then went to the convention center where Card Collector 2 and Kentucky Roadshow was hosting the official national trade night. And I got there around 6 o'clock. Doors were supposed to open at 7. There was already a massive line. Fortunately, I ran into my buddy Joey D's Cards, got to buddy up with him, so I didn't have to go to the end of the line. And then we waited for the next half an hour. Unfortunately, Joey had an emergency and had to go deal with that. So I entered the ballroom by myself, and it was absolutely massive. Look at the size of this thing here. And I'm not going to belabor the size and some of the other details. Other people like Card Collector 2 and Sports Card Investor SCI, they're going to have videos about this. So I'm not going to talk about this one too much. The one thing I did find surprising was Michael Rubin showed up, and he showed up with zero security detail. I was expecting at least one or two big beefy guys, given who he is and what he's worth, but it was just him and one or two PR people and maybe a social media manager, and that was it. And he was walking around talking to people. Obviously, probably most of them were prearranged, but that was a little bit surprising to me. So after this Card Collector 2 trade night, I went to the Lowe's Hotel. The Lowe's Hotel has become almost infamous on its own for its trade nights, so I thought I'd check it out. So I walked over to Lowe's Hotel to find an area in front of the hotel check-in desk. I'm going to say roughly 60, 70 feet wide and about 15, 20 feet long, or vice versa. So like a 16 by 20 feet area. Or maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's 80 feet wide. Anyways, and then they were all contained within this kind of space where people would normally sit and chill as they wait for their cabs to arrive or pick up shuttles or whatever. That was completely taken over people's cards, and people were wheeling and dealing, but it was fairly contained in this narrow space. That was Friday night. Or that was Thursday night. Sorry. And then Friday night, I went back to the Lowe's Hotel because there was that Filmington meetup, and so I decided to go to that. And the setup for the trade, the kind of pop-up trade night had devolved into madness and chaos. No longer were they contained, like I said, in front of that, space right in front of the hotel check-in desk. Now they're off to the side in a side hallway and had taken up a couple of meeting rooms, or I think maybe a business center room of some sort, and down various hallways, and people were doing things that were just clearly not smart, that would piss off, just to be blunt, hotel security and staff, because they were blocking emergency exits and they were blocking doors. And it's just like, guys, if we're gonna do this, let's at least do this in a civilized way so that we don't anger the people working there. And people did not do that. And here's some video of what it looked like, just for you to get a sense of the madness. I'm going to close this. Oh yeah, and I should mention I'm doing this video using the various IG stories on my archive, Simon 466 Cards. If you want to take a look, follow me and take a look. But here's a snippet of what it seemed and sounded like. So that was the one business center-y kind of room. And then I'm going to walk out into the hallway that connects to the hotel bar. The hotel bar would be on my right as I exit this room. So that's the hotel bar right here. And so the hotel check-in area is out here. and we're about to find out what it looks like down this hallway. And so there's a big room back here, another room that connects off this room to the left, and another room that connects off this room to the right. And when I went to this room and I was looking at cards, I'd been talking to multiple people being like, man, the Lowe's hotel staff must absolutely hate us. I can't, like, this is chaos. There's people just everywhere. It's loud. It's almost out of control. And, you know, within 30, 45 minutes of me saying this a few times, I see a security guy walk right past me, and he's saying things like, this is out of control. We're ending this. We're shutting it down right now. He goes into a side room, and then boom, all the lights go off for 5 seconds. And then he comes back and he's like, everybody out. And that was it. And urban legend has it that he called the cops. I didn't actually see the cops, but that's not to say that they didn't arrive, just to make sure that everybody got out of there and left. And so as a result, 10:15 time of death for the Lowe's trade night. You could see everybody packing up and leaving after it was made very clear that this was no longer happening. And so here's what they did afterwards to make sure no shenanigans. They put up these ropes and a couple of desks, and they did that over here as well, just to make sure you didn't get any ideas and get up to any funny business. So what I ended up doing was going to the hotel bar, which is right here on the left here. Because when you have, and I'm gonna just randomly guess, 500, 1,000 people, I don't know, throwing out numbers, but I would be surprised if it was more than 1,000. No idea. When you have 1,000 people leaving a hotel at the same time unexpectedly, well, guess what? Uber pricing is gonna be through the roof. So my cab ride usually costs $10. When I checked my phone, it was about $25. So a 2.5x Uber surge pricing multiplier. And so I said, well, that just seems like I should go to this hotel bar and have a drink or two, because there were still some guys from the Filmington get together. And so like Teapot and some other Scotty B Cards, Neo Sportscard Dad, they were all there. So I thought I'd chat with them. I ended up at a table and started talking to Gio and Jesse from the Sports Cards Nonsense podcast. Absolutely great guys. Had a great half an hour, 45-minute chat with them. And as we were having this chat, a guy stands up in the middle of the hotel bar and says, I've booked a conference room in this hotel, at the Lowe's Hotel, tomorrow night for a trade night. To offset the cost, if we're going to have 30 tables, if you want to have one of the tables, it'll be $100 if you want to rent it, so I can, break even or whatever. And so we all were like, oh, that's not a bad idea. It's good for you for, stepping up to the plate, whoever that gentleman was. I believe his name is Jeff. Anyways, and then after he made that, he literally stood up on a seat or on a table in the middle of this hotel bar, proclaimed this is what's happening tomorrow night, then went out to the hallway as people were leaving to also tell them the same thing. If you wanted a table, go talk to him. He's got it all set up. And so that would end up being what happened on Friday. But what also happened on Friday is we've talked a lot about trade nights, right? Because this is after the show ends. The show ends at 6:00. Then you still want to keep doing card stuff. That doesn't mean that you can't trade during the day or have a trade day, which is what ended up happening at the National. So this is the National entrance. People started setting up shop, trade night style, on the ground in front of the entrance area. All of these in the background are different entrances to the different halls in the convention center. So I thought that was pretty funny. And I took a look around, and I'm going to have a funny story, I believe, about this guy's cards right here. Maybe I'm getting this wrong, but I thought that was funny. I thought it was pretty ingenious for some of these collectors and people here to set up a ad hoc trade night. Friday night rolls around. I go back to the Lowe's Hotel and wait in line. It's much better. It seems well managed. It's organized. There's security people there from the hotel. making sure that the conference and ballroom or whatever that they rented out didn't exceed capacity limits. They eventually brought in some ice water for everybody to drink from because it was getting a little warm in there. And it was fine. But it didn't have that same uh, organic feel to it on the Saturday night, I should say, not Friday night. On the Saturday night, it didn't feel as organic, and so I had heard walking in as some people were leaving that they were going out to the Hyatt, and so once I left the Friday night trade night at the Lowe's conference room, I also walked over to the Hyatt, and this is what I encountered. Uh, this I said Hyatt is the new Lowe's. The hobby is fickle, and so this is what it looked like from the Hyatt hotel. So, if you've ever been to the Luxor in Vegas, it had a very similar design where all the rooms uh, opened out into a central atrium area, which means that how loud were we? Because we're all up in on the main floor. Like that's a hotel. That you just saw there was the hotel restaurant. That's the check-in desk. These are elevators to go to the rooms, and we're all up in everybody's business. And this is the hotel restaurant back here. And look at all like how did this noise travel? It's gonna go up. I don't know how loud we were. I'm surprised that they let us stay for so long. But like you can see all the hotel rooms go up and up and up, and I'm flabbergasted that they let us stay. So I guess there weren't too many noise complaints, but I felt bad for anybody who might have wanted to get some early shut eye at the hotel. So that's what the Lowe's looked like, or the Hyatt looked like. And so this is what it looked like from a different angle. I actually have this wrong. This is not a staff front desk. This is actually the restaurant area. So there's a whole other hotel breakfast area over here, or some kind of food restaurant situation. And this is, I think, the till for the restaurant, and this is like another counter. And people started setting up here as if they were the dealers. This is their counter, and people would walk up to them. It was absolutely hilarious. And there's like a little hallway here people set up, and then there's like another hallway here that opens up into another conference room area. So if we go to that story, that's what this looks like. This is from inside the conference room view. And you can see here, looking out, this is where the elevators are. And you can see there's people all over here, and then it wraps around in a full circle. So that's what happened. And now I'm going to end this with the craziest, but also possibly endearing side of the hobby. It really gives you hope for the hobby. So this is my buddy here, Rocky. I met him about, I don't know, 8 or 9 times. I bumped into him every night on the show floor at the various trade nights, to the point where it was hilarious every time we bumped into each other. Anyways, there was a card where Rocky and this fellow, and I don't remember this gentleman's name, where they were going back and forth on this. I believe it was a '07 Topps Chrome X-Fractor LeBron. It was a variation. And they were going, like, literally, they were just going back and forth, looking at comps, negotiating for so long. I think it was literally half an hour, to the point that when Rocky finally stood up, his legs had fallen asleep. Like, no joke. He had trouble walking. Anyways, they went back and forth, and then they settled. I think they were like $50 or maybe $100 apart. And then I think one of them was like, "Oh, is this really not going to happen for 50 or over $50 or $100?" And I think it was in the 1100 range, right? And so I said, "Why don't you guys flip for it?" And then just to flip for it, as you've seen people do. And so they're like, "Fine, let's flip for it." And then Rocky's like, "How about this? We flip for it, but instead of like for over 50 or 100, let's flip for it, because Rocky's trying to buy the card. He's like, let's flip for it for 1K or 1200, and this guy actually agreed. So they were gonna flip for $200, and not just like the usual 50 or 75 or $100, and which is wild for a card worth 1K, because that's like 20% of value, right? And or 1K or 1200 depending on how it landed. So it ended up landing 12K or 1200. So Rocky here lost, and he's like, oh damn, and he had this kind of sad look on his face. All right, here we go. And this guy, absolute just salt of the earth guy, he saw Rocky's reaction and is like, you know what, let's just make it 1100 and call it a day, and like forget the extra $100. Let's just leave it at that. And everybody, myself, Rocky, and his friend here, whose name I forget, we were all just like shocked, because you don't see that in the hobby. And this person basically said, like, Rocky, I could tell you're like a true collector. You're a true collector, and you want this card. And I could see, like, your face fell when you lost a coin flip. And so I know it's going to a great home for this card. And so, just pay it forward. And so that's that kind of stuff that really warms your heart and gives you hope for the hobby. That for some people, it's more about the love of the cards and about paying it forward. And so, yeah, this guy told Rocky, he's like, yeah, make sure to pay that forward, what I did for you. And that was his kind of message. We all just kind of really appreciated the gesture there, especially Rocky. And then me and Rocky negotiated. He was not able to pay it forward to me. We weren't able to reach on a deal, which is fine. But that's I think it's a little bit of a heartwarming story to end this on. Absolutely crazy to flip for 20% of the value of a card, and then have this guy just be like, you know what, it's all good, man. Let's just do 11 and go from there. And so I thought that was a really boss move by this guy. And again, I didn't have his name, but absolutely great guy. And Rocky, definitely one of my favorite people that I met at the show. So that's the video. That's the recap of the trade nights. Did you experience something else? Did you go to some other trade nights at the Crown Plaza or some of the other places that people mentioned? And what other urban legends and stories have you heard about trade night? I will say, I should also end on this. The cops actually showed up at this trade night as well at 1 a.m. when they were kicking us out, just to make sure that everybody left. But we were all very reasonably pleased with how things went here, and we were all very orderly at 1 a.m. when we were kicked out. But yeah, that's it. That's the video. Thanks as always to everyone for listening and watching, and I will talk to you all soon, probably with more national content. Cheers.